Hello friends, I'm Swapna Shetty. In this session, we are going to cover the features of OOPS, Object-Oriented Programming System. So there are 5 features of OOPS, namely class object, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. So coming to the class and object, entire OOP methodology has been derived from a single root concept called object. So what is an object? Object is anything that really exists in the world and can be distinguished from others. For example, we can take a table, a ball, a car, a dog, a person, etc. Everything will come under object. Then what is not an object? If something that really doesn't exist, then it is not an object. For example, our thoughts, imagination, plans, ideas are not objects because they do not exist physically. So every object has properties and can perform certain actions. For example, let us take a person whose name is Raju. So Raju is an object because he exists physically. He has got properties like name, age, and so on. So these properties are represented as variables in our programming like string name, int age, and so on. So similarly, Raju can perform some actions like talking, walking, eating, sleeping, and so on. So we may not write code for such actions in programming, but we can consider calculations and processing of data as actions. These actions are performed by methods. So an object contains variables and methods. It is possible that some objects may have similar properties and actions. Such objects belong to the same category called a class. For example, not only Raju but also Ravi, Sita, Vijay, etc. persons have same properties and actions. So they are all objects of same class person. Now observe that the person will not exist physically, but only Raju, Ravi, Sita, etc. exist physically. That means a class is a group name and does not exist physically, but objects do exist physically. So when you ask me what is the difference between a class and an object, a class and its objects are almost the same, with the difference that a class does not exist physically while an object do exist physically. For example, if we say dog, it forms a picture into our mind with 4 legs, 2 ears, some length and height. This picture in our mind is nothing but a class. If we tally this picture with the physical things around us, we can find Tom living in our house, which is satisfying all these qualities. So Tom, which physically exists, is an object and not a class. For example, flower is also a class, but if we take rose, lily, jasmine, they are all objects of flower class. So the flower class does not exist physically, but its objects like rose, lily, jasmine exist physically. Let us take one more example. Like if I want some shirts to be stitched by a tailor. So first of all, the tailor takes the measurements and makes a plan for the shirt according to the measurements. He may also draw a model shirt in his book. So this plan or model is nothing but a class. Following this model, he stitches the shirts which we can wear. So these shirts are called objects. To stitch those shirts, we need a material, cloth. The cloth represents the memory allotted by the JVM for the objects. So objects are created on heap memory by JVM at runtime. It is also possible to create several objects from the same class. An object cannot exist without a class, but a class can exist without any object. So we can say that a class is a model, and if it physically forms, it becomes an object. So an object is called instance of a class. Like table, chair, cot, sofa, these are also objects of the class called furniture. Similarly, Maruti, Santro, Benz are also objects of a class called car. Red, blue, green are objects of a class called color. So how do we create classes and objects in Java? So for that, a class is created by using a keyword called class. A class which describes the properties and actions performed by its objects. So we write these properties, that is variables, and actions, that is methods in the class as in this way. So when we observe this code, we can see that person class is having two variables and two methods. So this class code is stored in JVM's method area. When we want to use this class, we need to create an object to the class. Like person space Raju, which is the name of the object, equals to new person. So here Raju is an object of a person class. So object represents memory to store the actual data. So new operator will tell the JVM to allot necessary memory to the object of the person class. Objects are always created by JVM on heap memory. Next is encapsulation, which is nothing but it's a mechanism where the data, that is variables, and the code, that is methods that act on the data, will bind together. So if you take a class, we write the variables and methods inside the class. So class is binding them together. So class is an example for encapsulation. So these variables and methods are called members of a class. Generally, the variables in the class are declared by using a keyword private. This means the variables are not directly available to any other class. The methods of a class will be declared as public. This means that the methods can be called and used from anywhere outside the class. So to use these variables from outside, we should take the help of methods. There is no other way of interacting with the variables. That means outsiders do not know what variables are declared in a class and what code is written inside the method, which is giving the result. So others can only use them and get the results. So we can say that encapsulation protects the inner implementation of the members of a class from outside environment. And the other advantage of encapsulation is it isolates the members of a class from the members of another class. The reason is when objects are created, each object shares different memory and hence there will not be any overwriting of data. So this gives an advantage to the programmer to use the same names for the members of two different classes. For example, a programmer can declare int id string name in two different classes, which like employee and student. Like employee is a class with id and name as the variables. Student is a class with id and name as variables. Now in the variable ID of employee class, the programmer can store 1001 and the ID of student class he can store 12. Similarly, in the name of employee class he can store Vishal and in the name of student class he can store Lakshmi. That is, the data of one class will not spoil the data of another. So encapsulation is nothing but it's a protective members for the members of a class. So this is how we write a class. We provide encapsulation in Java in this way by declaring variables as private and by declaring methods as public. So anybody can call the method and access the private data of the class using the public methods. So in this particular code, the only way to interact with the data is through the talk method. Like the variables name and age are declared as private, there is no way to manipulate them. Only the public method talk can access them. So by calling the method talk using person class object, we can get the person talk with us. Next is abstraction. So there may be a lot of data a class contains and the user doesn't need to know the entire data. He requires only some part of the available data. So in this case, we can hide the unnecessary data from the user and expose only that data that is of interest to the user. So if you take an example of a car, any car will have some parts like engine, radiator, and some mechanical and electrical equipment. The user of the car, that is the driver, should know how to drive the car and doesn't require any knowledge of the parts. So driver is never bothered about how the engine is designed and internal parts of the engine. So this is the reason the car manufacturers hide these parts from the driver in a separate panel, generally at the front. So the advantage of abstraction is that every user will get his own view of the data according to the requirements and will not get confused with the unnecessary data. For example, a bank clerk should see only the customer details like account number, name and balance amount in the account. He should not be entitled to see the sensitive data like the staff salaries, profit or loss of the bank, interest amount paid by the bank and loans amount to be recovered, etc. So such data can be abstracted from the clerk's view. Whereas the bank manager is interested to know this data, it will be provided to the bank manager. So here is an example of the abstraction. Created a class bank in which we have account number, name, balance, profit and loan as the variables, and a method called display to clerk, which is displaying only the account number, name and balance and not profit and loan of the bank. So in spite of several data items, the display to clerk method is able to access and display only these three variables, that is account number, name and balance. It cannot access profit and loan of the customer. This means that the profit and loan data is hidden from the view of the bank clerk. Next is inheritance. Inheritance is it creates new classes from the existing classes so that the new classes will acquire all the features of the existing classes. So a good example for inheritance is in nature is parents producing the children and the children inheriting the qualities of the parents. So here let us take class B, which is extending. Let us take a class A with some features like A and B. And if we feel another class B also wants the same features, then we can derive or create the class B as like class B extends A. Now here all the features of A are now available to B. If an object to B is created, it contains all the members of classes A and also its own members. So the programmer can access and use all the members of both the classes A and B. So class B becomes more useful. This is called inheritance. The original class, that is class A, is called the superclass and the derived class is called the subclass. So basically there are three advantages of inheritance. The first is we can create more useful classes needed by the application. And the next is the process of creating new classes is very easy because they are built upon already existing classes, so it is easy. And the last is managing the code becomes easy because the programmer creates several classes in a hierarchical manner and segregates the code into several modules. So here in this class we take a class A with two variables A and B and a method 1. Now all these members are needed by another class B. We can extend class B from A. We want some additional members in B, for example a variable C and a method 2. So these are written in B. Now remember class B can use all the members of both A and B. This means the variables A, B, C and also the methods method 1 and method 2 are available to class B. Okay. So next is polymorphism. The word polymorphism came from two Greek words like poly meaning is many and morphos meaning is forms. So polymorphism means many forms. So it represents the ability to assume several different forms. So in programming we can use a single variable to refer to objects of different types and thus using that variable we can call the methods of the different objects. So there's a method call can perform different tasks depending on the type of the object. The biggest advantage of polymorphism is it provides flexibility to the programmer to use same method call to perform different operations depending on the requirement. So let us take an example of it. We have got a class 1 which is nothing but a superclass and subclass called 2. It is called subclass because it is extending a superclass called 1. So class 1 is having calculate method which is calculating the square value and class 2 is having the calculate method, same calculate method, which is calculating the cube value. Now, if we consider that obj1 and obj2 are objects of class 1 and 2 respectively. So if we create a reference like obj1 is an object of class 1 and obj2 is an object of class 2. Now if I create a reference saying 1 is a class name and ref is the reference. So if we use this refer ref to refer to the object of class 1, like if I say ref equals to obj1 and then call the calculate method, that is ref dot calculate, then it will calculate the square value. Suppose if I use the ref to refer to object of class 2 and then call the method of class 2, that is if I say something like ref equals to obj2 and then call ref dot calculate method, it will calculate the cube value. So here the same method call is performing two different tasks, which is nothing but polymorphism. So that's all with the session. Thank you.